Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today, we are diving into the book 1 Minute Reset. Reset your mind, reclaim your life in just 60 seconds. This 2026 release by Heidi Horne promises something that sounds almost too good to be true. It's all about helping you reclaim your mind and your energy, totally without a massive life overhaul. We live in a world where everyone just seems to be running on fumes, right? So this book acts as a real survival guide for overwhelmed people who just desperately need some calm, focus, and emotional control right in the middle of their crazy busy day. So think about when you last sat entirely still for 60 seconds. And I mean truly still, without checking your phone, without looking at a screen, or, mentally planning out what you're going to make for dinner. It's surprisingly hard, isn't it? We're so conditioned to fill every single tiny gap in our day with some kind of stimulation or productivity. But Horne argues that this exact inability to pause is literally the thing driving our collective exhaustion. Here's how we're going to unpack this framework today in our explainer. First, the epidemic of hurry sickness. Second, the 60-second paradigm shift. Third, mechanics of a micro reset. Fourth, stacking your new habits. And finally, does the science hold up? Let's jump right into section 1, the epidemic of hurry sickness and burnout in the modern world. We live in a culture of absolute chronic overstimulation, and what happens is we develop what's called hurry sickness. This is that constant, overwhelming feeling of rushing, which traps your body in a sympathetic nervous system state, which you probably know better as fight or flight. What's super fascinating here is the vicious cycle it creates. We feel totally burned out, but when someone suggests self-care, we feel guilty because we think we just don't have time for it. If you feel like you don't have a single minute to spare in a 24-hour day, the book argues that your schedule isn't actually the problem. It's your relationship with control. Horne really hits the nail on the head regarding the modern condition with this exact phrase: exhausted but wired, busy but unfulfilled. Does that resonate with anyone? It perfectly captures how we're desperate for relief but feel we simply do not have the time to stop. We treat self-care as just another overwhelming item on our massive to-do lists. We schedule our relaxing massages like they're military operations, or we convince ourselves we need a week-long retreat to fix our stress. And that just leaves us paralyzed doing nothing at all. Which brings us right to section 2, the 60-second paradigm shift, prioritizing action over perfection. This really highlights the difference in approach. Traditional self-care requires 30 minutes, a perfectly quiet space, a meditation cushion, and creates incredibly high friction. You have to actively carve out time for it. A micro reset, on the flip side, shifts the paradigm entirely. It takes exactly 60 seconds. It fits directly into your daily chaos, and it creates absolutely zero friction. You don't need to book that expensive yoga retreat, you just need to breathe at your desk. The author's mantra here is that a sloppy, distracted 60-second reset is infinitely better than a skipped 20-minute meditation session. Okay, so how do we actually do this? Let's look at section 3, mechanics of a micro reset, and the 3 categories of intervention. The absolutely crucial point here is understanding how to actually execute these resets to shift your nervous system from that fight or flight response down into the rest and digest parasympathetic state. Horne categorizes these micro resets into 3 distinct tools targeting the body, the mind, and the heart. All of these are designed to interrupt stress before it spirals completely out of your control. You aren't avoiding stress, you're simply catching it earlier. Let's start with the somatic reset, which focuses on the body. The most powerful tool here is the physiological sigh. Let's actually do this together right now. Take 2 quick inhales through your nose and then 1 long extended exhale through your mouth. Wow, you can instantly feel the physical drop in tension, can't you? This is grounded in solid neuroscience. That specific breathing pattern drops your heart rate and instantly signals safety to your brain, regulating your nervous system in real time. The other 2 tools are just as practical. The cognitive reset acts as a pattern interrupt. Say you're stuck in an anxiety spiral or just doom scrolling on your phone. You use the 5-4-3-2-1 sensory grounding technique, or simply ask your brain a sudden question like, where are my feet right now? It just breaks the mental loop. Meanwhile, the emotional reset, targeting the heart, is a 60-second burst of radical gratitude or self-compassion. It intentionally shifts your focus from the 10 things going wrong to the 1 single thing going right today. Let's move along to section 4, stacking your new habits and the accumulator effect. Because, let's face it, reading about a 60-second pause is entirely useless unless you can actually make it stick. The magic number here is 10. Horne introduces a concept called the accumulator effect. Now, 1 minute might seem totally useless on its own against a giant tidal wave of workplace stress, but 10 sloppy, distracted 1 minute resets spread across your workday will completely change the trajectory of your cortisol levels by 5 p.m. Those tiny moments compound powerfully to protect your overall energy. But how in the world do you remember to do them? Well, the secret is habit stacking. Do not try to find a random free minute in your schedule, because you just won't. Instead, attach your reset to an existing daily trigger. You already wait for the kettle to boil in the morning, right? You already sit in the car before turning the key. You already open new browser tabs at work. These are your triggers. When the trigger happens, you execute a 60-second reset. Here's what that actually looks like in practice. At 8 a.m., the kettle boils, and you do a somatic reset, a few of those physiological sighs. At 1 p.m., you open a new tab for a project, and you do a cognitive reset to ground your focus. At 5:30 p.m., you pull into the driveway, and you do an emotional reset. This last one is absolutely critical. If we don't reset throughout the day, we arrive home as a walking ball of stress, ready to snap at our families. That 5:30 p.m. transition reset in the driveway is an absolute relationship saver. It prevents that notorious end-of-day crash. Finally, we've got Section 5. Does the science hold up? Analyzing the book's framework. There is a super fascinating tension going on here. On the evidence side of the ledger, the science is remarkably solid. Brief interventions like physiological sighs genuinely lower your heart rate. They improve HRV, which is your heart rate variability, or basically your heart's ability to adapt to stress, and they stimulate your vagus nerve to calm you down. But then, on the commercial side, the book funnels readers into a 21-day challenge, a structured weekly flow program, and a companion subscription app. It's a little bit ironic to need a 21-day structured program for a 60-second frictionless habit. So just remember, the tools are verified, but you definitely don't need the paid app to benefit from a brief moment of breathing. Which leads us to a much bigger question to ponder. Can a 60-second micro-change actually fix systemic burnout? Or does it just help us cope with a fundamentally broken pace of life? Well, while it might not change the crazy demands of your job or the chaotic nature of the modern world, it undeniably gives you back a small measure of control over your own nervous system. I challenge you to try just one micro reset a day for the next week and see how it shifts your energy. I hope you found this explainer valuable. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode.